I watched my 12-year-old nephew, Derek, tear open my 7-year-old son, Tyler's birthday gift like he owned it. The remote control helicopter we had saved for 3 weeks to buy sat gleaming in its box as Derek's eyes lit up with greed. "This is way cooler than what I got," he announced to the entire birthday party, clutching the expensive toy against his chest. "I'm keeping this." Tyler's face crumpled as 20 kids stared in stunned silence. My brother Marcus just shrugged when I looked at him desperately. "Let him have it, Ray. It's not that serious." I nodded quietly, swallowing my rage. The next morning, I made one phone call to my bank. Derek's father had no idea that his car payment didn't go through because I had been the one sending it for 6 months. 3 years ago, Marcus lost his wife in a messy divorce that left him scrambling to raise Derek alone. As his younger brother, I watched him struggle with single parenthood while working 2 jobs just to keep their heads above water. When he lost his construction job 6 months ago, I started quietly covering his car payments without telling him. $342 every month transferred directly to the dealership to keep his Ford pickup from getting repossessed. I never mentioned it because Marcus had always been the proud older brother who took care of everyone else. Seeing him broken and desperate would have crushed what little dignity he had left. My wife Sarah had thrown Tyler the perfect 7th birthday party in our backyard. Colorful streamers hung from our oak tree, and she had baked a chocolate cake shaped like a racing car. 23 kids from Tyler's class ran around our lawn, their laughter filling the warm Saturday afternoon. Tyler had been bouncing with excitement for days, talking nonstop about the remote control helicopter he had seen in the toy store window. Sarah and I had been putting aside $20 a week from my automotive technician salary just to afford it. The helicopter was Tyler's dream gift. He had drawn pictures of it, researched its features online, and even practiced flying motions with his hands. When Derek snatched it away, Tyler didn't just lose a toy. He lost his faith that good things could happen to good people. The other kids whispered among themselves, confused by the unfairness they had just witnessed. Some of Tyler's friends started crying, not understanding why Derek could just take whatever he wanted. Derek wasn't always this entitled. When he was younger, he had been a sweet kid who looked up to me and respected boundaries. But something changed after the divorce. Marcus started giving in to Derek's every demand, buying expensive video games and designer clothes they couldn't afford. Derek learned that throwing tantrums got him whatever he wanted, and Marcus would rather give in than deal with conflict. When I called the bank Monday morning and canceled the automatic transfer to the dealership, my hands were shaking. The customer service representative confirmed the cancellation without asking questions. Part of me felt sick about it, but another part felt relief. For 6 months, I had been enabling Marcus to enable Derek. The cycle had to stop somewhere. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang with Marcus's number. His voice was panicked and desperate when I answered. "Ray, something terrible happened." He sobbed into the phone. "The dealership called. They're saying my payment bounced and they're going to repossess my truck. I don't understand how this happened. I thought I had money in my account." His voice cracked as he continued. "I can't lose this truck, man. It's how I get to job interviews. Without it, Derek and I are finished." I listened to my brother fall apart over the phone, knowing I held the power to fix everything with one simple transfer. But I also knew that fixing it would teach Derek that actions don't have consequences. "How much do you need?" I asked quietly. $342, Marcus whispered. "I know it's a lot to ask, but I'm desperate. I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I find work." The amount was exactly what I'd been paying every month. Marcus had no idea that his little brother had been keeping him afloat while he spent money on Derek's whims instead of necessities. "I'll see what I can do," I told him, ending the call without making any promises. That evening, Tyler asked me why Derek got to keep his helicopter. I knelt down to his eye level and looked into his confused brown eyes. Sometimes buddy people make choices that hurt others, but eventually those choices catch up with them. Tyler nodded solemnly, trusting that somehow justice would prevail. I hoped I was right. Thursday morning, I drove to Marcus's apartment complex on the south side of town. The building was older with peeling paint and cracked concrete steps leading to his second-floor unit. I'd been there plenty of times, but today I noticed details that worried me. Empty beer bottles lined his balcony railing, and past due notices were taped to his front door. Marcus opened the door looking haggard and exhausted. His usually neat appearance had deteriorated into wrinkled clothes and unshaven stubble. "Ray, thank God you're here," he said, pulling me inside. "I've been up all night trying to figure out what went wrong with my finances." His living room was chaos. Bills covered every surface, some marked with red stamps that screamed final notice and account overdue. Electric company warnings, credit card statements, and medical bills from Derek's recent emergency room visit for a skateboarding accident formed messy piles on his coffee table. "Marcus, this is worse than you told me," I said, picking up a utility shutoff notice dated for next week. I know, he said, running his hands through his unwashed hair. "Everything fell apart after I lost the construction job. I've been applying everywhere, but nobody's hiring. The unemployment benefits barely cover groceries, let alone rent and car payments." Derek emerged from his bedroom carrying the newest gaming console on the market. The price tag I remembered seeing in stores was over $400. "Hey, Uncle Ray?" he said casually, not looking up from the screen. "Dad got me this yesterday. It's awesome." My blood pressure spiked. Marcus was drowning in bills while buying Derek luxury items. "Where did you get the money for that?" I asked Marcus directly. Marcus looked embarrassed and shuffled his feet. Derek had been asking for it for months. "I found some extra cash and thought he deserved something nice after everything we've been through." Extra cash. While his electricity was about to be shut off and his truck repossessed. The contradiction was staggering. "What extra cash, Marcus? You just told me you're broke." Before Marcus could answer, Derek interrupted with disturbing news. "Dad, I saw Mrs. Peterson from apartment 4A crying in the hallway yesterday. She said someone stole her prescription medicine from her mailbox. Isn't that crazy?" Derek's tone was casual, almost amused by the elderly woman's distress. Marcus's face went pale. "That's terrible. Mrs. Peterson is such a sweet lady. She's already struggling with her medical expenses." I watched Derek's reaction carefully. Instead of showing sympathy for their neighbor's plight, he seemed oddly detached. "Yeah, whatever. These old people need to be more careful with their stuff," he said, returning his attention to his expensive gaming console. Something cold settled in my stomach. Derek's complete lack of empathy for Mrs. Peterson's suffering wasn't normal for a 12-year-old. Most kids his age would feel sad hearing about an elderly neighbor's problems. Derek seemed almost entertained by it. Later that afternoon, I learned something that shattered my understanding of the situation completely. Derek's school counselor, Mrs. Rodriguez, called me after I had requested a meeting about Tyler's emotional state following the birthday party incident. "Actually, Mr. Johnson, I'm glad you called. I've been wanting to discuss Derek's behavior with someone in your family." "What kind of behavior?" I asked, though I suspected I already knew. "Derek has been having problems with other students' belongings going missing after he spends time near their lockers or backpacks. 3 separate families have reported expensive items disappearing after Derek was seen in the vicinity. When we've approached Marcus about it, he insists Derek would never steal and suggests the other children are lying or misplacing their things." My hands tightened around the phone. "What kind of items?" "Smartphones, wireless earbuds, designer jackets, cash from lunch money. Always expensive items that Derek has shown interest in. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore, but without direct proof, we can't take formal action. The gaming console. The expensive clothes. Derek's casual attitude about Mrs. Peterson's stolen medication. Everything was starting to connect in ways that made me sick to my stomach. That evening, I returned to Marcus's apartment unannounced. Through the thin walls, I could hear Derek arguing with someone on the phone. "No, you can't have it back. You left it sitting out, so it's mine now. If you tell anyone, I'll say you tried to sell drugs to me at school." I knocked on the door and the conversation abruptly stopped. When Marcus answered, Derek was sitting innocently on the couch playing his game as if nothing had happened. But I'd heard enough to know that Derek wasn't just taking things. He was threatening his victims to keep them silent. "Marcus, we need to talk," I said grimly. "And Derek needs to be part of this conversation." The next morning, I decided to conduct my own investigation. I started by visiting Derek's school and speaking with Mrs. Rodriguez in person. What she told me was far worse than our phone conversation had revealed. The situation has escalated beyond missing items. She explained, leading me to her office filled with colorful educational posters and student artwork. Derek has been systematically targeting younger children, particularly those from families he perceives as wealthy. He befriends them, gains their trust, then takes their belongings when they're not paying attention. Mrs. Rodriguez opened a file folder thick with incident reports. Last week, a second grader named Emma came to me crying because her grandmother's ring had disappeared from her backpack. Her grandmother had given it to her as a family heirloom to wear for show and tell. Emma was devastated because the ring had been in her family for 3 generations. "Did you find evidence that Derek took it?" I asked, though my stomach already knew the answer. Emma specifically remembers Derek admiring the ring and asking if he could hold it during lunch. After that, she never saw it again. When we questioned Derek, he claimed he never touched Emma's backpack and suggested she must have lost it herself. Marcus supported Derek's story completely and became hostile when we pressed for more details. Mrs. Rodriguez pulled out more reports. A third grader's birthday money from his grandparents, a kindergartner's new sneakers that cost her parents over $100, a fourth grader's handheld electronic device. All had disappeared after interactions with Derek, and all had been dismissed by Marcus as coincidence or false accusations. The most troubling part, Mrs. Rodriguez continued, is Derek's reaction when confronted. He doesn't show remorse or confusion. He becomes calculating and defensive, often turning the accusations back on his victims. He's learned to manipulate situations to make himself appear innocent while making his victims look unreliable. From school, I drove to Derek's neighborhood to speak with residents. Mrs. Peterson, the elderly woman Derek had mentioned, lived in the same apartment complex as Marcus. When I knocked on her door, she answered with obvious caution. "I'm Ray Johnson, Marcus's brother." I introduced myself. "I heard about your medication being stolen, and I wanted to see if you're okay." Mrs. Peterson's weathered face showed relief at finding someone who cared. "Oh, thank you for asking, dear. It's been such a struggle. Those pills cost me over $200, and I can't afford to replace them until next month. I've had to cut my doses in half, which makes the pain much worse. Do you have any idea who might have taken them?" I asked gently. Her expression became uncomfortable. "Well, I hate to accuse anyone without proof. But that young man from upstairs has been very helpful lately. Derek, I think his name is. He's been offering to get my mail and packages when I'm having bad days with my arthritis. My blood ran cold. Derek has been handling your mail. Yes, such a sweet boy. He said he wanted to help because his father taught him to respect elderly people. But now that I think about it, my medication disappeared the same day he brought up my packages. I just assumed it was a coincidence." I spent the next 2 hours visiting other neighbors. The stories were horrifyingly similar. Derek had positioned himself as a helpful young man, offering to assist elderly residents with small tasks. Mrs. Chen from apartment 2B had lost her late husband's watch after Derek helped her carry groceries. Mr. Williams from the first floor was missing cash from his wallet after Derek offered to help him organize his mail. Each victim had been too embarrassed or confused to report the thefts, assuming they had misplaced the items themselves. Derek had chosen his targets perfectly. Elderly people with memory concerns who would doubt themselves before accusing a seemingly helpful child. That afternoon, I confronted Marcus with what I had learned. His reaction was immediate and defensive. Those old people are confused, Ray. Derek would never steal from anyone, especially elderly neighbors. You're believing lies and rumors. Marcus, this is a pattern. Derek is systematically targeting vulnerable people. No, he's not. Marcus's voice rose to a shout. Derek is a good kid who's been through trauma with the divorce. These accusations are just people looking for someone to blame for their own carelessness. Derek appeared from his room, having obviously been listening to our conversation. Uncle Ray, why are you trying to get me in trouble? I was just being nice to those people because Dad taught me to help others. The manipulation in Derek's voice was chilling. He was playing the innocent victim while standing in a room filled with items I now suspected were stolen. The gaming console, expensive headphones, designer clothes that Marcus couldn't afford on unemployment benefits. But the moment that shattered everything came when I noticed something familiar on Derek's dresser. Tyler's action figure from last Christmas, a limited edition superhero that had been Tyler's favorite toy. Derek, where did you get that? I asked, pointing to the figure. Dad bought it for me, Derek said quickly. I saw it at the store and really wanted it. Marcus looked confused. Derek, I never bought you that toy. Where did it come from? Derek's confident facade cracked for just a second before he recovered. Oh, right. I got it from a friend at school. We traded for something else. But I recognized the tiny scratch on the figure's arm that Tyler had accidentally made with his fingernail. This wasn't just any action figure. This was Tyler's exact toy stolen from our house during a family gathering months ago. Derek had been stealing from us his own family for far longer than anyone realized. Derek, that belongs to Tyler, I said firmly. You took it from our house. Derek's expression turned cold and calculating. Prove it. All those toys look the same. You can't prove anything. Marcus stared at his son, finally seeing what I had been trying to show him. But even faced with obvious evidence, Marcus chose denial. There has to be an explanation. Derek, tell Uncle Ray how you really got that toy. Derek smiled, knowing his father would protect him no matter what evidence emerged. I already told him, Dad. He's just trying to cause problems for our family. Standing in that apartment surrounded by what I now knew were stolen goods, I realized the situation was far beyond a simple discipline problem. Derek was operating a systematic theft ring with his father's unconscious protection, and the victims were piling up throughout their community. I knew I needed concrete evidence before involving authorities, so I decided to set up surveillance in my own home. The following Saturday, I installed a small security camera in our living room, hidden behind family photos where it wouldn't be noticed. Sarah thought I was being paranoid, but I convinced her it was for general home security. 2 weeks later, we invited Marcus and Derek over for dinner. Throughout the evening, I watched Derek's behavior carefully. He moved through our house like he was cataloging valuable items, his eyes lingering on Sarah's jewelry box, my collection of vintage watches, and Tyler's new bicycle visible through the patio door. After dinner, while the adults talked in the kitchen, Derek excused himself to use the bathroom. The security footage later revealed what actually happened during those 10 minutes. Derek methodically searched our bedroom, opening drawers and examining items. He pocketed 2 $50 bills from Sarah's dresser drawer, a gold bracelet that belonged to her grandmother, and my spare car keys. But the most devastating discovery came when I reviewed footage from previous family gatherings over the past year. Derek had been systematically stealing from us for months. Christmas ornaments with sentimental value, electronics cash, even prescription medication from our medicine cabinet. The total value of stolen items exceeded $2,000. The spare car keys explained something that had been puzzling me for weeks. My truck had been showing signs of use when I hadn't driven it. The seat position was different, the radio stations had changed, and the mileage didn't match my records. Derek had been taking my truck for joyrides, a 12-year-old driving illegally around town. Monday morning, I called Detective Williams at our local police station. When I explained the situation, his response surprised me. "Mr. Johnson, we've been investigating a series of thefts in your brother's neighborhood for several months. We had suspects, but no concrete evidence. Your information might be exactly what we need." Detective Williams was a seasoned officer in his 50s who had worked property crimes for over 20 years. When we met at the station, he spread out files covering dozens of theft reports from the past 6 months. "We've been seeing a pattern of items disappearing from elderly residents, but the victims often don't report immediately because they assume they've misplaced things." "How extensive is this?" I asked, looking at the thick stack of reports. 23 confirmed thefts in a 6-block radius around your brother's apartment complex. The total value exceeds $15,000. We suspect there are more victims who haven't come forward yet. Detective Williams showed me surveillance footage from a nearby grocery store. The grainy video showed Derek and Marcus together with Derek carrying a bag full of items. We obtained this footage last week. Derek appears to be showing your brother various items, and Marcus seems to be giving him instructions about something. The detective leaned forward in his chair. "Mr. Johnson, based on what you've told me and what we've observed, we believe your brother may be more involved in this than you realize. Derek is a minor, but someone has been teaching him sophisticated techniques for targeting victims and avoiding detection." That evening, I confronted Marcus with everything I had learned. Instead of denial, he broke down completely. Tears streamed down his face as he admitted to knowing about Derek's stealing for months. "It started small," he sobbed. "Derek came home with a wallet he said he found. Instead of turning it in, I let him keep the cash because we needed grocery money so badly." "Marcus, you turned your son into a criminal," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I know. But then he started bringing home more valuable things. Electronics, jewelry, cash. I told myself he was just finding things people dropped or threw away. I didn't want to ask too many questions because the money was helping us survive. Marcus revealed the horrifying truth. He had been coaching Derek on which neighborhoods to target and how to identify valuable items. He taught Derek to focus on elderly victims who would be less likely to report thefts or be believed by police. Marcus had been selling the stolen goods online and using the money to pay bills and buy Derek expensive gifts to keep him motivated. "The worst part," Marcus continued through his tears, "is that Derek started enjoying it. At first he felt guilty, but now he brags about how easy it is to trick old people into trusting him. He's become someone I don't recognize, and it's my fault." Derek had been listening from his bedroom. He emerged with a cold expression that chilled me to the bone. "Dad, you're being dramatic. Those old people have way more stuff than they need. We're just redistributing wealth from people who won't even notice it's gone." The callousness in Derek's voice was terrifying. At 12 years old, he had developed a criminal mindset that justified victimizing vulnerable people. Marcus's enabling had created a monster. But Derek wasn't finished revealing his true nature. "Besides, Uncle Ray, you should be thanking me. If it wasn't for the money we made, Dad would have been begging you for even more help than he already was." "What do you mean?" I asked, though part of me already suspected. Derek's smile was cruel and calculating. "Dad told me about the mysterious car payments that kept us from losing the truck. We figured out it had to be you, so really you've been funding our operation this whole time. We're business partners." The realization hit me like a physical blow. My efforts to help my brother had indirectly funded a theft ring that victimized over 20 families. Derek was right. I had been unknowingly enabling the entire operation. Marcus looked horrified at his son's words. "Derek, that's not true. Ray was helping us out of love, not to support stealing." "Same difference," Derek shrugged. "The result was the same. We got money and we used it however we needed to use it." Standing in that apartment, I finally understood that Derek wasn't just a troubled kid making bad choices. He had become a predator who enjoyed manipulating and victimizing others. And Marcus, in his desperation and weakness, had created this monster by prioritizing short-term survival over long-term consequences. The next morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I called Detective Williams and arranged to cooperate fully with the police investigation. But first, I wanted to gather evidence that would ensure Derek and Marcus faced appropriate consequences for what they had done to our community. Detective Williams suggested setting up a controlled operation to catch Derek in the act of stealing. We arranged for me to leave my wallet containing marked bills in plain sight during Derek's next visit to our house. Hidden cameras would record everything, providing undeniable evidence for prosecution. While waiting for the operation, I discovered something that broke my heart completely. Tyler's college fund, which Sarah and I had been building for 3 years, was missing over $3,000. I kept the cash in a fireproof safe in our bedroom closet, and somehow Derek had accessed it. When I confronted Sarah about the missing money, she initially thought I was accusing her of spending it. "Ray, I haven't touched Tyler's college fund. Every deposit is recorded in our ledger." But when we opened the safe together, we found stacks of fake bills mixed in with real ones. Someone had carefully replaced genuine $20 and $50 bills with obviously counterfeit ones, hoping we wouldn't notice immediately. The fake bills were poorly made, clearly printed on regular paper with an inkjet printer. But there were enough real bills remaining that a casual glance wouldn't reveal the theft immediately. Derek had been systematically stealing from Tyler's future, replacing real money with worthless paper. Sarah was devastated. How could Marcus let Derek do this to his own nephew Tyler's been so excited about going to college someday? He talks about becoming an engineer and building bridges. I called Marcus immediately and demanded an explanation. His response revealed an even deeper level of betrayal than I had imagined. "Ray, I can explain everything. Derek discovered the combination to your safe by watching Sarah enter it during one of our visits, but I had no idea he was taking Tyler's college money until last week." "And what did you do when you found out?" I demanded. Marcus's silence told me everything I needed to know. He had known Derek was stealing from Tyler and had done nothing to stop it or return the money. Actually, Marcus finally admitted, "Derek told me you guys had plenty of money and wouldn't miss a few $1,000s. He said Tyler was just a little kid who wouldn't need college money for years anyway. I convinced myself it wasn't really hurting anyone." The rationalization was breathtaking. Marcus had watched his son steal his nephew's education fund and justified it by assuming we wouldn't notice or care. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Derek had done because Marcus was my brother, someone I had loved and supported unconditionally. But the worst revelation was yet to come. Derek had been planning to frame me for the missing money if we ever discovered the theft. Marcus reluctantly explained Derek's backup plan. "Derek set up fake gambling websites on your computer during his last visit. If you ever accused him of stealing, he was going to tell people you had developed a gambling problem and spent Tyler's college money on online poker. Derek had accessed our home computer and created false browsing history, showing visits to gambling sites and fake transactions. If anyone investigated Tyler's missing college fund, the evidence would point to me as a desperate father who had gambled away his son's future." The level of premeditation and manipulation was staggering. Derek hadn't just stolen money. He had crafted an elaborate plan to destroy my reputation and family if we ever threatened to expose him. At 12 years old, he was thinking like a career criminal. Detective Williams was equally shocked when I explained Derek's framing strategy. "Mr. Johnson, this goes beyond typical juvenile theft. Derek has been planning and executing sophisticated criminal schemes that would challenge experienced adult investigators. We need to move quickly before he escalates further." The controlled operation took place the following Sunday during our regular family dinner. Derek arrived with Marcus and I made sure to leave my wallet containing marked $100 bills prominently displayed on the kitchen counter. Hidden cameras recorded everything from multiple angles. Derek's theft was methodical and confident. While Marcus distracted Sarah and me with conversation about his job search, Derek calmly entered the kitchen, opened my wallet, and removed $300 in marked bills. But he didn't just take the money. Derek also photographed my driver's license and credit cards with his phone, clearly planning to use my personal information for identity theft. The cameras captured Derek's facial expressions during the theft. There was no guilt, hesitation, or fear. He looked pleased with himself, like he was playing a game he enjoyed winning. When he returned to the living room, Derek sat calmly with the family participating in normal conversation while the stolen money remained hidden in his pocket. After Marcus and Derek left that evening, Detective Williams reviewed the footage with me. This is some of the clearest evidence of juvenile theft I've seen in my career. But Mr. Johnson, we found something else while investigating Derek's activities. Detective Williams showed me files documenting Derek's expanding criminal network. Derek has been recruiting other children at school to steal for him. He's taught at least 5 kids in his class how to identify valuable items and distract victims while they steal. Derek takes a percentage of everything they steal and sells the items online through accounts he created using fake identities. Derek wasn't just a thief. He had become a criminal mastermind operating a theft ring that employed multiple children as his accomplices. The operation was sophisticated enough to evade detection for months, while generating thousands of dollars in stolen goods. But the discovery that shattered my remaining faith in my brother came when Detective Williams revealed Marcus's true role in the operation. Mr. Johnson, your brother wasn't just enabling Derek's stealing. Marcus has been actively participating as Derek's business partner. Bank records show Marcus opened multiple accounts to launder money from stolen goods sales. He's been using Derek as the face of the operation while handling the financial aspects himself. Marcus had lied about being a reluctant enabler who got swept up in Derek's criminal behavior. He had been the criminal mastermind all along, using his 12-year-old son as a front for an organized theft ring that victimized dozens of families throughout our community. The police arrested Marcus and Derek on a Tuesday morning that changed our family forever. I watched from across the street as Detective Williams and 2 uniformed officers approached Marcus's apartment building. The arrest was swift and professional, but seeing my nephew in handcuffs broke something inside me that I'm still trying to repair. Marcus was charged with multiple felonies, organized theft, money laundering, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Derek, being a minor, was taken into juvenile custody and faced charges in family court. The district attorney's office described their operation as one of the most sophisticated juvenile crime rings they had prosecuted in recent years. The evidence was overwhelming. Police recovered over $50,000 worth of stolen merchandise from Marcus's apartment storage unit and various online accounts. Items ranged from elderly residents' family heirlooms to children's birthday gifts to prescription medications that put lives at risk when victims couldn't afford replacements. During the investigation, more victims came forward every day. Mrs. Peterson's stolen medication was just one example of how Derek's crimes had caused real suffering beyond simple property loss. An elderly veteran named Frank Miller had been forced to sell his car after Derek stole his disability check from his mailbox. A widow named Grace Thompson couldn't afford heating bills after Derek took her late husband's watch, the only valuable item she owned. The psychological evaluation ordered by the juvenile court revealed disturbing details about Derek's mental state. Dr. Sandra Martinez, a child psychologist specializing in criminal behavior, found that Derek showed no remorse for his victims and actually expressed pride in his ability to manipulate elderly people. Derek views his victims as deserving targets, Dr. Martinez explained during a meeting with Child Protective Services. He believes elderly people with limited mobility and confused memories are fair game because they're weak. This level of predatory thinking in a 12-year-old indicates serious antisocial tendencies that require intensive intervention. The most chilling discovery came when police searched Derek's bedroom thoroughly. Hidden behind his dresser, investigators found a notebook where Derek had been documenting his crimes like a business ledger. Each page contained detailed information about victims, their daily routines, valuable possessions, physical limitations, and family situations. Derek had been studying his targets like a professional criminal. He knew which elderly residents received Social Security checks on specific dates who had prescription medications worth stealing, and which families had valuable items left visible through windows. The notebook contained plans for future thefts, including sketches of apartment layouts and notes about building security. But the entry that destroyed me emotionally was Derek's page about our family. He had documented our schedules, Tyler's school activities, Sarah's work hours, and my weekly routines. Derek had been planning to escalate his theft from our home, targeting everything from Sarah's jewelry collection to my tool collection in the garage. Most disturbing was Derek's plan to manipulate Tyler directly. Derek had written detailed notes about Tyler's trusting personality and how he could use their cousin relationship to gain access to valuable items. Derek planned to convince Tyler to borrow things from our house and bring them to Marcus's apartment. During the court proceedings, Derek's behavior shocked everyone involved. Instead of showing remorse or accepting responsibility, Derek blamed his victims for being careless with their belongings. When Judge Patricia Henderson asked Derek how he felt about Mrs. Peterson having to skip her medication doses, Derek shrugged and said, "She should have been more careful about where she put her pills." Marcus's behavior in court was equally disappointing. Rather than taking full responsibility for creating Derek's criminal mindset, Marcus continued making excuses and blaming external circumstances. "Your Honor, we were desperate after I lost my job." Derek was just trying to help our family survive. Judge Henderson wasn't impressed with Marcus's excuses. "Mr. Johnson, you turned your son into a predator who victimized vulnerable members of your community." Derek didn't develop these antisocial behaviors independently. You taught him that stealing from elderly people was acceptable as long as you didn't get caught. The sentencing phase revealed the full scope of how Derek's crimes had impacted our community. Victim impact statements filled an entire afternoon as elderly residents described the fear and vulnerability they felt after being victimized by someone they had trusted. Mrs. Chen, whose late husband's watch Derek had stolen, spoke through tears about how the watch was her only remaining connection to 50 years of marriage. That watch wasn't valuable to anyone except me. It contained engravings of our wedding date and our children's birthdays. Losing it felt like losing part of my husband's memory. Frank Miller, the elderly veteran, described how Derek's theft of his disability check had forced him to choose between medication and groceries for an entire month. I served my country for 20 years and came home disabled from combat injuries. I never imagined a child from my own neighborhood would target me for being vulnerable. The community impact extended beyond individual victims. Parents were afraid to let their children play outside without supervision. Elderly residents stopped trusting helpful young people, even those with genuine intentions. Derek's crimes had poisoned the atmosphere of mutual support that makes neighborhoods feel safe and welcoming. Sarah and I attended every court session, not to support Marcus and Derek, but to represent Tyler and show respect for the victims. Tyler was too young to fully understand what his cousin had done. But he knew Derek had hurt people and taken things that didn't belong to him. "Dad, why did Derek become mean?" Tyler asked me after one particularly difficult court day. "I thought family was supposed to take care of each other, not steal from each other." Explaining criminal behavior to a 7-year-old required delicate balance between honesty and age-appropriate information. Sometimes buddy people make very bad choices that hurt others. Derek learned that taking things was easier than working hard for them, but now he has to face consequences for those choices. Will Derek ever be nice again? Tyler asked with the innocent hope that children possess even in terrible situations. I don't know, Tyler, but Derek is going to get help from doctors and counselors who understand how to help kids who make bad choices. Maybe someday he'll learn to make better decisions. The final court session brought mixed emotions. Derek was sentenced to 18 months in juvenile detention, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. Marcus received 5 years in state prison, with the possibility of parole after 2 years if he completed substance abuse and financial responsibility programs. Judge Henderson addressed Derek directly during sentencing. Derek, you're being given an opportunity that many adult criminals don't receive. The juvenile justice system is designed to help young people learn from their mistakes and become productive citizens. Whether you take advantage of this opportunity or continue down a criminal path is entirely your choice. Derek's response was a mumbled "yes, ma'am" that carried no conviction or genuine understanding of the judge's words. Looking at my nephew in his orange juvenile detention uniform, I saw a stranger who bore no resemblance to the sweet boy I had once loved unconditionally. As we left the courthouse for the final time, I felt a mixture of relief and profound sadness. Justice had been served, but the cost to our family and community would take years to fully repair. Derek and Marcus would face consequences for their actions, but the victims would carry emotional scars long after the legal proceedings ended. The road to healing began slowly for our family and community. Tyler struggled with nightmares and trust issues for several months after learning about Derek's crimes. Sarah and I arranged counseling sessions with Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a child therapologist who specialized in helping children process family trauma. Tyler is experiencing a common reaction to discovering that someone he trusted could hurt people he cares about, Dr. Walsh explained during one of our sessions. Children, Tyler's age, believe in fundamental fairness, and Derek's actions violated Tyler's basic understanding of how family relationships should work. Dr. Walsh helped Tyler understand that Derek's choices didn't reflect on Tyler's worth or safety within our family. Some people make very bad decisions that hurt others, but that doesn't mean everyone will hurt you. Your parents love you and will always protect you. Gradually, Tyler's nightmares decreased, and his natural optimism began returning. The process taught Sarah and me valuable lessons about communication and honesty with children. We learned to answer Tyler's questions directly, while providing appropriate reassurance about his safety and our family's stability. 3 months after the sentencing, I received an unexpected letter from Derek at the Juvenile Detention Center. The letter was part of his court-ordered therapy program requiring him to write apology letters to his victims and family members affected by his crimes. Uncle Ray, I know you probably hate me for what I did to Tyler's college money and your family. The counselors here are making me write these letters, so I'm supposed to say I'm sorry. I guess I am sorry that I got caught and everyone got mad at me. I don't really understand why everyone is so upset about some money and stuff that rich people won't even miss. But the doctor says I have to learn empathy, whatever that means. Maybe when I get out, we can be family again. Derek. The letter revealed that Derek still didn't understand the real impact of his actions. His apology focused on getting caught rather than hurting people, and he continued viewing his victims as deserving targets. Despite months of therapy, Derek showed minimal progress toward genuine remorse or empathy development. Dr. Martinez, Derek's court-appointed psychologist, contacted me to discuss Derek's treatment progress. Derek is participating in all required programs, but his engagement remains superficial. He's learned to say appropriate words about remorse and responsibility, but psychological testing indicates he still views his victims as weak people who deserve to be targeted. Is there hope for Derek to change? I asked, still holding on to some belief that my nephew could be redeemed. Antisocial personality traits in adolescence can be modified with intensive intervention, but success requires genuine motivation to change. Derek currently sees therapy as an obstacle to his release rather than an opportunity for personal growth. Dr. Martinez recommended that our family maintain protective boundaries with Derek even after his release. Derek has demonstrated sophisticated manipulation skills and targeted family members for victimization. Until he shows genuine behavioral change sustained over years, not months, he poses a continued risk to people who trust him. Meanwhile, Marcus began showing more promising signs of genuine remorse from prison. He wrote heartfelt letters to his victims, accepting full responsibility for teaching Derek criminal behaviors and prioritizing short-term financial gain over long-term consequences. Ray, I know you'll probably never forgive me for what I did to Tyler's college fund and our family's trust. Marcus wrote in a letter that arrived 6 months into his sentence. I've been attending addiction counseling and financial responsibility classes, and I finally understand how my gambling addiction and desperation turned me into someone who would exploit my own son and victims throughout our community. Marcus's letter continued with specific acknowledgments of his failures. I taught Derek that taking advantage of vulnerable people was acceptable as long as we didn't get caught. I created a criminal mindset in a child who trusted me to guide him toward good choices. I betrayed everyone who loved and supported us, especially you. Marcus enrolled in every available rehabilitation program. The prison offered gambling addiction treatment, parenting skills, classes, financial literacy education, and vocational training in automotive repair. His counselor, James Mitchell, contacted me to discuss Marcus's progress and potential for successful reintegration. Marcus has shown genuine commitment to understanding how his choices harmed his family and community, Mr. Mitchell explained. He's one of the few inmates I've worked with who takes full responsibility for his actions without making excuses or blaming external circumstances. The restoration process extended beyond our immediate family to the broader community Derek and Marcus had victimized. I worked with Detective Williams and community leaders to organize neighborhood meetings where victims could share their experiences and discuss strategies for preventing future crimes. Mrs. Peterson, despite her age and the trauma she had experienced, became an advocate for elderly safety education. What happened to me could happen to anyone who trusts too easily, she told a community meeting attended by over 60 residents. We need to teach our children and grandchildren to be cautious without becoming paranoid. The community meetings led to practical improvements in neighborhood security. Residents organized volunteer programs where younger neighbors checked on elderly residents regularly. The apartment complex installed better lighting and security cameras in common areas. A neighborhood watch program provided training on recognizing and reporting suspicious behavior. Tyler's recovery inspired me to become involved in youth mentorship programs. Working with Big Brothers Big Sisters, I began mentoring children from single-parent families, hoping to provide positive male role models that could prevent them from making Derek's choices. My mentee, a 10-year-old boy named Carlos, whose father had been deported when Carlos was 6, reminded me of Derek's potential before criminal influences corrupted his development. Carlos lived with his mother, Maria, who worked 2 jobs to support them both. Like Marcus, Maria was struggling financially and emotionally with single parenthood. Mr. Ray, my mom says we might lose our apartment if she can't find better work, Carlos confided during one of our weekly meetings. I've been thinking about ways to get money to help her, but I don't know any legal ways to make money as a kid. Carlos's honesty about his financial concerns allowed me to guide him toward positive, problem-solving strategies. We discussed age-appropriate ways to help his family good grades to qualify for academic scholarships, learning skills that could lead to future employment, and connecting his mother with community resources for job training and financial assistance. The mentorship relationship taught me that early intervention and positive guidance could prevent children from developing the criminal mindset that had destroyed Derek's future. Carlos thrived with consistent adult attention and clear expectations about right and wrong behavior. 1 year after Derek's sentencing, Tyler celebrated his 8th birthday with a party that felt completely different from the traumatic event that had started our family's ordeal. This time, every gift was genuinely given and received with gratitude and joy. Tyler had requested that guests bring donations for elderly residents at the local nursing home instead of expensive personal gifts. "I want to help old people who might not have families to take care of them," Tyler explained when planning the party. "Derek took things from old people, so I want to give things to old people." Tyler's compassion and desire to help others showed how children can process trauma in ways that increase their empathy rather than diminishing it. His response to Derek's crimes was to become more generous and protective of vulnerable people, not more suspicious or selfish. The nursing home donation drive collected over 200 items, clothing books, toiletries, and comfort items that would brighten the lives of residents who had limited family contact. Tyler personally delivered the donations and spent time talking with residents about their lives and interests. "This boy has a special gift for connecting with people," said Nancy Phillips, the nursing home activities director. "He listens to our residents with genuine interest and makes them feel valued as human beings." Tyler's natural empathy contrasted sharply with Derek's calculated manipulation of elderly people. The difference highlighted how family influences can shape children toward compassion or cruelty depending on the values and behaviors they observe from trusted adults. 2 years after the initial theft at Tyler's birthday party, Derek was released from juvenile detention to a halfway house with strict supervision requirements. He was prohibited from unsupervised contact with elderly people, required to attend weekly therapy sessions, and monitored with electronic ankle bracelet technology. Derek's first letter after release was noticeably different from his previous communications. "Uncle Ray, I've been thinking about what I did to Tyler and your family, and I realize I hurt people who loved me. The doctors helped me understand that taking things from people made them feel scared and sad, not just mad about losing stuff. I want to try to make up for what I did, but I don't know how." While Derek's letter showed some progress toward genuine empathy, Dr. Martinez cautioned against premature optimism. Derek has learned to identify emotions in others, which is progress from his previous complete lack of empathy. However, understanding emotions intellectually is different from feeling genuine concern for others' well-being. Marcus was scheduled for parole review after completing 2 years of his 5-year sentence. His transformation in prison had been remarkable, according to corrections officials and his counselor. Marcus had earned his GED completed automotive technology certification and maintained perfect behavior records throughout his incarceration. Marcus has become a mentor for other inmates struggling with addiction and financial irresponsibility, his counselor reported. He leads group sessions about the long-term consequences of criminal choices and helps other fathers understand how their actions affect their children. Marcus's parole hearing included testimony from several victims who supported his early release based on his demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation efforts. Mrs. Peterson, despite the trauma Marcus and Derek had caused, spoke in favor of giving Marcus a second chance. "This man destroyed my trust and caused me real suffering," Mrs. Peterson told the parole board. "But he has taken responsibility for his actions and worked hard to change. If he truly commits to making amends and living honestly, I believe people deserve opportunities for redemption." The parole board granted Marcus supervised release with conditions including restitution payments to victims, continued therapy participation, and community service at organizations serving elderly residents. Marcus would spend 1 year in a halfway house before potentially regaining custody of Derek. 3 years after Tyler's birthday party incident, our family had rebuilt trust and established new traditions based on honesty, generosity, and respect for others. Tyler excelled in school and continued volunteering with elderly residents through church and community programs. Sarah and I had learned valuable lessons about setting appropriate boundaries with family members while maintaining compassion for people struggling with difficult circumstances. We realized that enabling destructive behavior even from good intentions, ultimately causes more harm than allowing people to face natural consequences for their choices. My mentorship work expanded to include speaking at schools about youth crime prevention and family communication. Sharing our family story helped other parents recognize warning signs of criminal behavior development and understand the importance of addressing problems early before they escalate. The most important lesson I learned, I told a parent education group, is that love without boundaries isn't really love. When we protect people from consequences they've earned through their choices, we rob them of opportunities to learn and grow from their mistakes. Derek completed his probation requirements and moved to a supervised independent living program at age 16. His progress remained limited but showed incremental improvement. Derek had learned to hold entry-level jobs without stealing from employers and maintained superficial friendships without victimizing peers. However, Derek continued struggling with genuine empathy and forming deep emotional connections with others. His relationships remained primarily transactional, based on what others could provide for him rather than mutual care and respect. Marcus successfully completed parole and regained partial custody of Derek under family court supervision. Father and son attended weekly family therapy sessions to rebuild their relationship on healthier foundations. Marcus maintained steady employment at an automotive repair shop and lived in a modest apartment near Derek's school. I'm learning to be the father Derek needed 5 years ago. Marcus told me during a supervised visit, I can't undo the damage I caused, but I can try to model better choices moving forward. The journey toward healing taught our entire family that recovery from betrayal and criminal behavior is a long-term process requiring sustained commitment from everyone involved. Quick fixes and simple apologies cannot repair the complex damage caused by systematic violation of trust and community safety. Tyler, now 11 years old, has become a confident young man who stands up for fairness and protects people who need help. His experience with Derek's crimes taught him to value honesty and integrity while maintaining compassion for people who make mistakes. Dad, do you think Derek will ever be completely normal? Tyler asked me recently while we worked together in our garage. I don't know, buddy. Derek is still learning how to care about other people's feelings. Some people learn those lessons faster than others. What matters is that we keep making good choices ourselves and helping others when we can. I think Derek is lucky to have you as an uncle, Tyler said thoughtfully. Even after he hurt our family, you still want him to get better, instead of just staying mad at him forever. Tyler's wisdom reminded me that forgiveness doesn't require forgetting or eliminating protective boundaries. We can hope for people's rehabilitation while maintaining realistic expectations and appropriate caution based on their demonstrated behaviors over time. The experience taught me that family love sometimes means holding people accountable for harmful actions rather than enabling continued destructive behavior. True compassion requires courage to set firm boundaries and allow people to experience consequences that might motivate genuine change. Our community has healed stronger than before, with neighbors more aware of each other's needs and better systems in place to protect vulnerable residents. The elderly residents who were victimized by Derek have formed friendships with families who check on them regularly and include them in community activities. Mrs. Peterson, now 87 years old, has become Tyler's honorary grandmother and joins our family for holiday celebrations. Her presence reminds us that healing is possible when people choose to transform pain into purpose and isolation into community connection. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized that Derek's theft at Tyler's birthday party was actually a gift in disguise. It forced our family to confront enabling behaviors that were preventing Marcus and Derek from developing healthy coping strategies and moral development. The crisis created opportunities for growth healing and stronger community bonds that wouldn't have existed if I had continued quietly enabling Marcus's irresponsible choices. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do for family members is refuse to protect them from consequences they need to experience in order to learn and change. Today, Tyler is preparing for high school with excellent grades and strong friendships built on mutual respect and honesty. His college fund has been restored and continues growing through our disciplined saving and Tyler's own contributions from neighborhood lawn care jobs. Sarah and I have built a marriage strengthened by honest communication about difficult family situations and shared commitment to protecting our son while maintaining appropriate compassion for struggling relatives. We've learned to distinguish between helping and enabling, between compassion and codependency. Derek and Marcus continue their own journeys toward rehabilitation and redemption. Their progress is slow and uncertain, but they are no longer our responsibility to fix or control. We maintain appropriate contact and support their positive choices while protecting our family from potential future harm. The birthday party that started this story taught us that sometimes standing up to injustice requires difficult choices that feel uncomfortable in the moment but create positive change over time. Stopping those car payments was just the beginning of a longer journey toward justice, accountability, and healthy family relationships. If you've experienced similar challenges with family members who take advantage of your generosity or cross important boundaries, remember that setting limits isn't cruel or unloving. Sometimes the most caring thing we can do is allow people to experience natural consequences for their choices while maintaining hope for their eventual growth and change. What would you do if a family member took advantage of your kindness in ways that hurt other people you care about? Would you continue enabling their behavior to keep peace? Or would you risk conflict to protect innocent victims? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video if it helped you think about family boundaries in new ways. Subscribe for more stories about real family challenges and how ordinary people find courage to do the right thing even when it's difficult. Share this story with anyone who might benefit from hearing about the difference between helping and enabling in family relationships. Thank you for listening to our family's journey, and I hope it helps you navigate whatever challenges you're facing with wisdom, courage, and love.